watching the stream, you will see. Starting the campaign roundtable, Portal 2 Part 2 in 3, 2, 1.
It's you.
And welcome back, everyone, to the campaign roundtable. I'm Garrett Weinzierl.
I'm Mike Doherty.
And I'm Kyle Ferguson.
And this is the cast where we dive into the depths that is the story of video games. And this week we are wrapping up Portal 2 with our second part of our two-part thing about the second part of a game that has two parts.
You did it, Wheatley.
There it is. Could a moron intro a show like that?
Yeah. Yes, he could.
Okay, thank you.
And when we return to this, we have just been hit down a big hole by Wheatley, the moron, and we learned that he is basically not genetically, a robotically engineered organism to be so stupid as it'll calm down the supreme supercomputer that is GLaDOS.
Yeah, she called him a moron tumor, or something to that effect. So, so we wake up. We've got Potato, which is also GLaDOS, which is just wonderful at this point. I want a Potato GLaDOS, and I just found out that ThinkGeek sells a proper potato experiment, and when the circuit is complete, it's a glowing eye GLaDOS thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's worth it.
No potatoes included, though. So
it is interesting that this kind of came to pass. In the beginning of the game, we passed like science fair experiments, giant potato plant growing up to the ceiling, this weird thing about, don't worry, all personalities can exist as low as 1.5 volts. And you're like, oh, okay, thanks for that random information. Now it completely makes sense.
yeah, it was all going through it a second time. It's very, very in-your-face setup for putting GLaDOS on a potato so you can stick it on your gun and run around with her. Not that Shell is at that point yet where we're discussing right now because, when you wake up, the first thing that happens is GLaDOS gets picked off by a bird and float away.
Yeah, how did bird way down there? Like, I love that it's a bird, but how is it a bird? Like, a blind salamander would have seemed a little bit more natural for being miles underground.
Well, we're led to believe that there are some pockets, because we were more or less trying to ascend to escape before we were stopped by GLaDOS after accidentally resurrecting her, and then also accidentally putting an idiot in charge. So there's portions of this facility that are broken into closer to the surface where life forms are getting in. What they're living off of, I don't know. Apparently there's a lot of potatoes. We know that.
Sure, and there's vegetation abound, so some
Right.
light is getting in from the ceiling. And this has such a cool essence to it. This whole idea that you are continuing to disregard signs, and there is sign after sign telling you to keep out, go away, do not enter, toxic. And you have to keep pressing on. But it's just such a cool intro to this next area.
Yeah, we start to go through essentially decades. We find an old decommissioned portion of the Aperture Science Facility dating back to the 1950s, which, from what we are shown in Portal 2, is pretty much inferred as the start point for Aperture Science. That it was kind of founded in the 50s by this crazy old man named Cave Johnson. So, I guess this is the best time to roll our first clip, isn't it?
Do it.
Hey.
Welcome, gentlemen, to Aperture Science. Astronauts, war heroes, Olympians, you're here because we want the best, and you are it. So, Who is ready to make some science?
I am.
Now, you already met one another on the limo ride over, so let me introduce myself. I'm Cave Johnson. I own the place. That eager voice you heard is the lovely Carolyn, my assistant.
All right. So, off the bat, he seems eager. He seems like a good guy.
Yeah, so this is Cave Johnson at the very beginning of Aperture Innovations, and he has this idea that he is going to do science from the ground floor, and there's always this idea in a lot of sci-fi is how far science should go, or the whole Jurassic Park, just stand on the shoulders of giants. But he's just going right to the bottom and starting with, I guess, propelling people at high speeds at walls.
Well, it would be jumping in this case. Or bouncing,
Sure.
if you will.
But we know from the things he says that they have not invented the boots yet.
Oh, the long fall boots?
Yes.
Yeah,
so
'cause-
people are dying from these experiments.
we hear
and they show you like a diagram of the actual portal gun, and it's like this huge backpack thing that they're having to lug around. It looks ridiculous in
Yeah.
the little drawing they have of it.
It's very, like 60s science fiction-esque. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It would not be out of place in an episode of Doctor Who.
Well, the whole thing kind of starts off with like a Venture Brothers, any kind of like those old Johnny Quest type super science type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But very quickly devolves right back into these really sick, dark humor that we're used to in Portal. Much with the discussion of all of the terrible maiming, death injuries that are being inflicted upon all these people who are trying out the repulsion gel. And as you mentioned, Kyle, the long fall boots have not yet been invented, so people are just having their entire bodies shattered.
Well, asbestos and mantis men that they've apparently made by injecting people with DNA.
I forgot about the mantis men.
And throughout this whole thing,
Oh.
we are at Cave Johnson's pinnacle. He's just gotten going, and he is throwing money at this project, getting the very best, getting, as you said, astronauts, scientists, Olympians to do these experiments.
Well, now we're not sure that they're actually the people doing the experiments. This could have been a canned recording for everyone who went into tests, so they thought, "Oh, cool! I'm right up there with astronauts that I'm never going to meet."
Well, all right, but let's go ahead and take a look then at 1970s, because it's a clear difference between the group of people he's addressing.
Yeah. Let's roll that right now.
Greetings, friend. I'm Cave Johnson, CEO of Aperture Science. You might know us as a vital participant in the 1968 Senate hearings on missing astronauts. And you've most likely used one of the many products we invented, but that other people have somehow managed to steal from us. Black Mesa can eat my bankrupt...
Sir, the testing?
Right. Now you might be asking yourself, Cave, just how difficult are these tests? What was in that phone book of a contract I signed? Am I in danger? Let me answer those questions with a question. Who wants to make $60? Cash. You can also feel free to relax for up to 20 minutes in the waiting room, which is a damn sight more comfortable than the park benches most of you were sleeping on when we found you.
Okay, good point, Kyle. He mentions a missing astronaut Senate hearing that Aperture was a part of, and it looks like that they have now turned to hobos and vagrants as testing subjects.
And also we have the appearance of Kerrigan.
Oh,
yep.
Starcraftian slip.
Video game slip, yep. Help me out here. Now all I've got is Kerrigan in my head. Carolyn.
Carolyn,
Carolyn.
his wife.
Well, his assistant here.
Assistant.
Yeah.
Well, definitely, we're not sure about their relationship, but definitely kind of a Charlie Mads thing going on, like some sort of drink the punch Cave Johnson guy. And Carolyn is definitely his crazed follower.
Right. Also, mechanically, once we get to the 1970s, that's when the speed gel is introduced, the orange stuff. I know we don't dive too much into mechanics here, but you pointed out at the top of that, Kyle, and now I'm all like, oh, cool! I didn't actually notice that we were getting new mechanics with every decade, because I'm a moron.
I also really like the differences in architecture and things between the 50s. Everything is really posh and just awesome. So they use velvet back then on everything.
Yeah, well, you had the big like leather seats and all the smoking rooms while you were going through the 1950s,
Yeah.
and now we're basically to cubicles and
and
those
wood
wooden
siding.
walls. Yeah, oh,
It looked like old stills of like NASA back in the day of like the moon race.
yeah, those big old record things on the walls that you have no idea how those were computers.
Yeah.
It could just as easily have been just a reel-to-reel recorder. You're like, what's going on with this thing?
What's with the big Walkman, guys?
The computers look like, I'm going to show my age here. They look like what I learned on in school, like high school. The computers I learned on, where like if you took the disk out before you turned the computer off, it would wipe the disk because that's a great idea.
Oh god, I was a lot younger, but I remember that being the case on like Apple II still worked like that, right?
Maybe.
Okay, because I want to say that was the first thing I ever worked on back when I was in like first grade.
Yeah, I had like a black and green.
Yeah.
Well, and here we also get reference to Black Mesa.
Yes. Yeah, and apparently that they've been, or at least Cave Johnson believes, stealing their research and development.
I love how in this alternate sci-fi world where we are either having a single kind of company that knows more than they should, are always the ones who invent things like microwaves and dish networks and like lip balm.
I always figured that was just an idea that just kind of started with Men in Black, but it must have been around like longer than that, right?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, ever since the Roswell crash, there's been that conspiracy theory of, oh man, all this cool technology we've just been ripping off of the alien bodies that we found out in Roswell.
Yeah. Aliens all had wood paneling on the inside with microwaves and Tandy 2s.
And asbestos.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
forget
why they crashed.
asbestos. That's why they crashed.
There's also, while we're making our way to the 1970s, a clip of Cave Johnson firing someone for being too safe.
Yeah.
So basically the man is, he wants progress, but he's a little crazy.
He is. You can definitely see where the attitude of the AI that now runs Aperture kind of came from.
Yeah, yeah. The need to test is, he's sporting the punch.
Exactly. He's drinking the Kool-Aid. But yeah, it's a very good point. And obviously, he, like you said, he likes to play fast and loose. He just wants results for results' sake, and it ends up. You kind of find out what ends up being the demise of Cave Johnson right here.
Welcome to the Enrichment Center. Since making test participation mandatory for all employees, the quality of our test subjects has risen dramatically. Employee retention, however, has not. As a result, you may have heard we're going to phase out human testing. There's still a few things left to wrap up, though. The bean counters told me we literally could not afford to buy $7 worth of moon rocks, much less 70 million. Bought them anyway, ground them up, mixed them into a gel. And guess what? Ground up moon rocks are pure poison. I am deathly ill.
Who knew? Moon rocks, man. They'll kill you.
I don't think that's real, but
I doubt it. Yes, I would agree with that.
I think there'd be more than one type of rock on the moon. Like, there might be big rocks, little rocks, black rocks, white rocks, maybe some orange rocks. Who knows? Not just like a moon rock.
Well, it's a rock and it's from the moon, so we call it a moon rock.
I guess.
Don't get too heady on me, Mike.
All right. I just wouldn't think they'd all come out looking like flour stuff. It's kind of like white sauce.
Well, I mean, if you look at the moon, it's all gray. So unless you bring an excavation team to really dig
It's just
down
because
deep.
it's old and it's sun bleached.
Fair enough. I'll give you that. So Cave Johnson, man, he basically gave himself cancer. We were just joking about asbestos, but it sounds like it's the same kind of thing, only faster acting. So.
Oh, good old moon rocks.
Yes, indeed.
like many eccentric men, as he grows older, he becomes afraid of death as well. And in his infinite knowledge and his insanity, he starts working on a way to implant himself inside of computers so that he can continue this forever. Now, where he's getting the funding, I don't know. Clearly, he's having some issues here. His bean counter's not letting him buy moon rocks, or at somewhere he gets the money to buy all these pounds of moon rocks, and you turn on the pumps that are just, it must have taken half the moon to fill up this place.
Yeah, if we wanted to really kind of break this down, I'm sure somewhere you could do like the math and be like, yeah, there's not that much moon. Just period.
Well, never mind. We do get to see the moon. So maybe it is just half of it's gone, but never mind.
No, that's very, very much debunked within this very game.
From the second you flip the switch here and all the ooze starts pouring out everywhere, from before, there'd be a big drip and the blue gel would drip down and you'd shoot the portal and get the blue gel somewhere else. With the orange gel, it was a little more aggressive. Like, it was usually coming out in big old clumps and you could actually launch it at things and create yourself little roadways. But from the second you get the white gel, they basically just give you run of the place, and you're in this huge room. You have these two giant towers out in front of you, and you need to ladder the gel up the side of the tower with this diagonal force that it's rocketing out with. It really was just so freeing for a game to be like, here's the toys, go play with them.
Yeah,
not only that, but I love the physics of the fluids. I don't think I've ever seen, you've seen plenty of test demos for fluid physics, blah, 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 but then you never really have to get to see it in action, and it's great.
Yeah, it's really impressive, and it's funny I'm glad you mentioned that, Kyle, that the game opens up so much more, because Portal 1 and the first half of Portal 2, it's very guided. You get room after room of very strictly built puzzles where you don't have really much freedom. There's like one way to do something, and that's it.
Well, and once you've done the I'm falling and I shoot a portal while I'm falling, that's about as far as things can go without the gel. Then we add in the lasers and the redirection cubes and companion cubes in the first one. But ultimately, again, we reach that wall. And just giving us the gels, but then the white gel just completely opened up the thing, and the fact that you were painting your own walls and eventually having to scale your way up back into the facility, and there's the huge just seal on the place, and you've got to use it just gets so mind-blowing at times. I was really surprised how much I actually remembered from my original playthrough, because I remember just being lost and being like, you mean that all the way up there? I'm supposed to launch this to get up there through the grating, no less.
Yeah, I know the exact puzzle you're talking about, and that I was lost for an hour. I was just sitting there like, what the hell do I do?
I think I actually benefited from playing basically through this entire game in 2 sittings, because after like 3 hours, you kind of it's like watching a Shakespeare movie, where after a while your brain starts to think like Shakespeare, and you're like, taking a shower like later on, and you're like thinking to yourself and these and doths and whatnot, and you're like, why the hell am I doing that? Oh, because I just watched a 4-hour Shakespeare movie. It's the same thing here. Like, you get the idea of how things are supposed to work, what they're trying to do, and you really start getting real quick with it, like thinking about stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. You start thinking in Portal.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyways, let's move. Just one more clip from Mr. Cave Johnson, then we'll move on.
All right, I've been thinking. When life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Make life take the lemons back. Get mad! I don't want your damn lemons! What am I supposed to do with these?
Take the lemons.
Demand to see life's manager. Make life rue the day it thought it could give Cave Johnson lemons. Do you know who I am? I'm the man who's gonna burn your house down with the lemons.
Oh, I like this guy.
I'm gonna get my engineers to invent a combustible lemon that burns your house down.
Burn his house down. Burning people. He says what we're all thinking.
That friggin' clip, man.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that's gonna burn your house down with the lemons.
I just got to give some credit there to J.K. Simmons. He is the man. I mean, think about it. They've got such incredible, hilarious, just great voice work going here. And he has to go last. And he has to follow up, like, everybody loves GLaDOS already. And then out comes Wheatley, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, I didn't think I could actually love anything more than freaking GLaDOS." And now you got Wheatley, and then he has to come in after all of that and just rock it, and he does. And J.K. Simmons is amazing.
That last clip really reminds me of Jeff Bridges from Iron Man.
Yeah,
when he's yelling at the scientist, Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Well, he's basically just doing his J. Jonah Jameson thing. That was the best thing to come out of all 3 Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, that's a good point, I guess.
And just as an added, geek cred to him, he's also Tenzin in Legend of Korra.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
I would have never have guessed unless I actually looked it up in IMDb.
My world just came crumbling down.
And now for the new Ultimate Spider-Man series, he is J. Jonah Jameson. So he has established himself officially. I mean, you hear it and you can't help but, think, Parker, get in here.
Yeah. Well,
wait, in the new movies?
No, in the new TV show, Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh, who gives a crap?
Oh, it's a cartoon, man. Cartoon's fun.
It's like Gandalf. Is born to play Gandalf, and Magneto for that matter. Patrick Stewart, born to play Professor Xavier. Who else are you going to get?
And Picard. Don't forget Picard. That was kind of, a big deal.
Yeah, I guess. Sure, why not?
Or if it makes you feel
I feel like
better.
someone else could have been Picard, but no one else could be Xavier.
Oh, man. Send all of your emails to Mike specifically. I want nothing to do with this. This is not the views of Mike Doherty did not necessarily represent the views of Campaign Roundtable.
Picard was an unknown quantity before he came in there.
Stop talking now. There are
could have been someone
nerd
else.
terrorists outside my home now. Thank you very much, Mike. So anyway.
This is the first time we really see GLaDOS get really into something, particularly since she's been
and something human.
Yeah, and she's been now removed from the facility for some time, so she's kind of coming off her evil high and getting a little more level, and she's trying to comprehend who these people are that he keeps talking about. Who's this Caroline that seems so familiar? And at this point, if it hadn't clicked yet. Yes, she was Caroline, and oh my goodness, she was totally drinking the punch.
I like that you basically just said, since GLaDOS was getting excited about burning down people's houses with lemons, that she is leveling out.
True enough. Well, she's a little more human. She's not trying to murder you, personally.
What is your
get
basis?
How stuck on Cave Johnson she was. Even in her disembodied robot form, she is still totally his yes man or woman.
Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, I mean, was it ever? I was just assumed they were married, so it's never actually spelt out like that. For all we know, they were just lovers.
I mean, you could assume they're lovers. It was never said. It was, yes, with the 1950s and all in the air, the idea of an assistant who's completely infatuated with you does suggest some, office hanky-panky.
I'm just going to assume that they were Sam and Frodo.
Yeah, share the load. Moving on.
Yeah.
We could have an entire conversation about my opinion on Sam and Frodo then, but we'll leave that for a different show. So yeah, Caroline is GLaDOS. She was the successful test of the mind-to-computer transit. Cool stuff, and mind-blowing at the time. I was like, no way.
Well, and it's creepy, too, because Cave Johnson says, if you can't do it by the time I die, put Carolyn in to my computer and make her run the facility. She's going to say no. And you're like, wait, what? Is this a modest thing? Or did he actually know that she would not agree to this, so they forced her into it?
Oh, man, what a hell.
That's kind of like that dark stuff coming in again.
Yeah, but that's...
It's so subtle. It's not even really that dark.
Though.
Yeah, it's not really dark until you actually think about it. And that's what they do so well in a lot of this, is there is a lot of really heady, dark stuff hidden just behind a veil that if you think about it, you get shivers. But, when you're just playing through the game, and he's going to make her blah, 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 it doesn't faze you.
Yep.
It's like all the stuff they put in SpongeBob for adults.
That's a really good analogy. But it's like when one of the famous things on YouTube is to take happy-go-lucky family movies and rescore their trailer with something horrifying and recut it slightly different. If you even remotely remixed Portal, it could easily become one of the most phenomenal survival horror games ever.
Yeah,
remix it with the music from the Prometheus trailer, the screaming lady.
There you go. That's a perfect example.
You could do that with like Toy Story, and it would still be scary sounding.
Especially if you use scenes from Sid's room in the first one.
Yeah. Oh my goodness! And then them going down the boiler in the third one.
Oh, man,
holding hands.
Off topic. Third Toy Story, the best one.
God, that's tough.
For me, it is. I was so ready to hate it, and maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I was so pleasantly surprised.
I just love the dynamic in 2 between Buzz Lightyear and Woody too much, and the video game in the beginning, and everything they did there. Al's Toy Barn. I mean, the third one's great, but it's one of those movies where I'm like, that was awesome. Maybe once a year.
Okay. All right. I disagree. 2 is my least favorite, but all right.
Oh, but it's got Emperor Zed and all that.
It's a toss-up between 2 and 3 for me, definitely. If you put a gun to my head, I'd probably try to wiggle out of it. I don't know if I could say.
I don't know. I love them all, but damn you, Pixar. Damn you. And luckily, Toy Story 3 was so damn good that I am actually excited for Monsters University, because if you had come to me a couple years back before Toy Story 3 and said they're going to make a sequel to Monsters, Inc., I'd have been like, Disney is ruining everything.
Yeah, but if they allow Monsters, Inc. to be, the sequel to be good, or the prequel, I should say, then they're going to make up for it with the third Cars movie and planes.
Whatever. We don't need to go see that.
I can't say planes with enough disgust in my voice.
I don't really like Cars to begin with, so I'm okay. I'm okay because I wouldn't watch it anyway.
I don't even hear like a regular voice say that in my brain. I hear like Smeagol. It's like planes.
Well, it's not Pixar making it. So that's good. Back to the topic at hand, Portal 2, and literally there is nothing fuzzy and warm feeling about this game. Unless you're like a fan like me, and the second you hear Wheatley's voice on the second playthrough, you're just like, oh my god, I missed this. Which is exactly what I had going back into this game.
Yeah, so we start climbing our way back up the facility. Caroline GLaDOS has a plan, but it's she's going to use oh my goodness, what's it called? Illogical statement.
So she's going to use Kirk's strategy against Spock.
Yeah, well, against the robot he met down in the depths there as well.
Okay.
Huh. I didn't even get that as a Star Trek reference. That was like totally Futurama for me. Jeez. All right.
When combating robots, it's one of those laws of robotics ideas that if this statement is false, then they'll be like, wait, no, I can't. And head explodes.
Yeah. And also, it's freaking Wheatley Laboratories now. It might as well be called Pee-wee's Playhouse. And I mean that in a good way, in an amazing way, in a yes, please put more of this in my video games way. I loved it. Even the loading screens, which, as we said last week, there are many of.
But this time they're much better because there's a lot more content in between them. In fact, I found them much more forgivable and forgettable in the second half. It was almost like they were trying to make the first half of the game look like Portal 1, and in the second half they went, oh, no, by the way, we kind of updated the tech.
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost to the end, they became like, you felt like you made it to the next base. Like, woo, loading screen, all right. Ready for the next challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. It wasn't as obvious. In the first half, every time you get into an elevator, loading screen. Wasn't as obvious with Wheatley Laboratories.
There were even a couple times you walked into a double-doored corridor and it didn't go, and you're like, wait, what? Is this not a load screen? Is this door going to open right now?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's good stuff. And, well, we get to start talking to Wheatley again, which makes me very happy, and he has just got to test.
You have no idea what it's like in this body. I have to test all the time, or I get this itch. You know, it must be hardwired into the system or something. Oh, but I tell you, when I do test, oh man alive, nothing feels better. It's just, that's why I've got to test. That's why I've got to test. So you're gonna test, and I'm gonna watch, and everything is gonna be just fine.
Warning. Core overheating. Nuclear meltdown imminent.
I think we're in trouble.
Only Wheatley would yell at a nuclear meltdown and think that would do any good. It's like, oh, we're having a nuclear reaction meltdown? Well, shut up.
So I don't know whether they were like trying to combat the immortality complex that the robot might have and the fact that maybe it doesn't have to test right now, it can wait till later. But they basically inserted a drugging system into it so that every time it tests, it would get a little euphoric burst that you would quickly adapt to. So you had to do more and more outrageous tests.
Much like 13-year-olds discovering their bodies across America.
Sure, absolutely. Got to test. You know, I just got to test. But now we realize why GLaDOS was GLaDOS, because she had been there. She had reached that pinnacle, rolling on the ground, drooling on herself, needles in every arm, where she went, well, the final test that's left is to neurotoxin everyone in Facility in Portal 1. Got that big payoff, and now is completely insane, and why she kind of toys with you and keeps you alive through 1 and the beginning of 2.
Yeah.
Like it's some sort of big payoff. If you just wait long enough, it's going to be that much sweeter when it finally goes.
Oh, there's so many terrible analogies I could make right now, but I'm trying
And
to
they're
keep
made in the game. They're made in the game, and it's so great with Wheatley being like, "Oh yes, oh that was good."
The only thing they needed was for Wheatley to come down from the ceiling and like light up a cigarette, just like
pretty much. And
put the coffee on.
One of the first rooms you go into with him. Well, the first room you see him, he's invented half turret, half box robots that are dragging themselves around so that he can make them press buttons. Well, he gets you to press a button, gets the big release. Oh yeah. And redoes the room thinking that it's going to give him the same release. And he slowly starts having that GLaDOS madness.
Yeah, just like, oh crap, I have to make these tests harder and more complicated, or I don't get the same level of satisfaction.
Did you guys have the same problem I had now and then, where those stupid boxes would like get up and leave after you put them somewhere? God, that was so annoying.
A couple times, very rare.
If you watch forward, you could like roll them onto their back. But yes, they did like to go.
I definitely was having an Alien Resurrection moment, just like, kill me. Kill me.
And by doing this, with having his stupidity just plastered all over the walls, he's written his name on all the boxes in the place. This is actually the hardest part in the whole darn game. But it works out story-wise because he's such an idiot that logic no longer applies, or it's no longer about just looking for that high point in the sky to warp up to.
Exactly. That was what I was going to counter with, but well, damn it, sir, you took my counterpoint.
Because, man, you get in some of these, the last one in particular, where he tells you you've got 3 more tests to go. He lies, but you've got 3 more tests to go. There are 3 guns on the other side of a glass wall, and you need to jury-rig the blue goo to fly through the air back and forth as you activate this button and get the glue to land on top of the turret so they bounce off. And then you need to bounce like up in the air multiple times in order to get yourself enough momentum to fly across the gorge. It's just madness. And I literally got to that other side and went, did I do that right? Was that what I was supposed to do, or did I cheat?
Yeah, that was a good
Great.
one.
That's the mark of a great puzzle game, man. When you're not sure.
They even explained that well, like, because they said, he just started taking the ones that GLaDOS had left over, and then when he runs out of like the spare ones, he finds the ones that are in the back that are like her trophies from where she had killed previous people. Like, he finds the one, they just had skeletons in them. She kept them as keepsakes of when people died. She would save that test, like that was the good one. They got killed in that one, and so he's bringing all of her like deadly tests in for the last parts. which is just like an awesome way to explain this.
Yeah. God, it's terrible. It's like in the Saw movies. If Jigsaw was just like, oh yeah, I got coming out next month, Jigsaw's greatest hits.
Yeah. Like, oh, I remember that one. God, that was messy.
Yeah, exactly. So, can we talk about the ending now?
Yeah,
You
let's do
You
it.
guys feel comfortable moving on to the our final confrontation with Wheatley
Let's do it.
and my favorite character in all of Portal ever, the Space Corps. Oh my God, I didn't grab a clip for this. I wish I had, but oh my God, Jesus, I love the Space Corps. So we're finally going up to confront. Shell goes up to confront, well, Wheatley GLaDOS at this point. And right before you enter the room, you see these like pens full of reject cores. And they're wonderful. Of course, the one that being obsessed with space is my favorite, and a lot of people's. So much to the fact that they put it in Skyrim.
Yep, as well as in TF2, but that's not a big surprise. Everything ends up in TF2 eventually.
No, yeah, exactly. At least, at the very least, as a hat. So, yeah, basically, we want to start a court transfer again. Is the entire purpose of facing off with Wheatley here, and so we just put a bunch of idiot cores on the different portions of Wheatley. It's pretty much what's going on, right?
Yeah, so in our first kind of identical boss encounter in the first half of the game, she was already corrupt, so we just had to do the core transfer. This time, he's not technically corrupt, he's just lacking substance in the brain.
Right.
So we attach all sorts of broken ones. The space one is first up. What's your favorite thing about space? And
Gotta go to space.
the second one you gotta love as well because it's this army guy. And, hey, why don't you go take a lady break?
See, I'm glad we have Kyle here because he has an awesome voice. Yeah, Lady Bird. God, I wish Chell had a voice just so she could like quip back every now and then, or like what would have been great is if they just gave her just one quip at the very end, like she just can't take it anymore and she has to sass back at someone.
Yeah, that or not even a scream while you fly at high speeds. I mean, I would definitely give a few when I'm running down the orange gel, about to hit a ramp to fly across an entire room.
I'm pretty sure mine would just be holy shit. The only thing I can compare it to is being a Floridian hitting a wave you didn't mean to hit on a wave runner going faster than you probably should have been going. And then the crushing defeat of your genitals against the seat when you come back down.
Never as soft as you think they should be.
No, they're really not. So, anyways, when we finally succeed, when we initiate the core transfer, Wheatley's like, ha ha! Booby trapped! And the facility just starts to kind of melt down.
Yep, blows you back, blows a big old ceiling in the sky, and I would have to think that everyone had the exact same experience as me. I mean, we've all played Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, we've all played Majora's Mask, and you see that moon up in the air.
It sounded like
Majora's?
it did sound like Manjora.
Manjoras.
I like Manjora.
Sound like a mangina, Kyle.
Makes sense.
I'm sorry.
man
Continue. I just couldn't let that pass.
But, you know, you see that big old thing in the sky, and you launch some fire arrows at it, why not? So this sky opens up.
That's exactly what I did. I looked at the moon and thought to myself, I'm going to shoot at this, but there's no way in hell it's going to do anything.
And we all just did it instinctively. That's the wonderful thing about it. It really like played to our video game mindset that we've had for all this years. The moon, click, and wait a minute.
Yeah, you see that little bing on the moon, and then all hell breaks loose.
Yep. Yeah. This has got to be one of the most surprising endings to any video game I've ever played. In a good way, an incredibly rewarding way that really, I think, respects the player.
And it makes total sense because it's Moonrock.
Exactly. I mean, the setup was done so well. At no point playing this game did I think to myself, oh, this game's obviously going to end with me making a portal on the moon.
Well, and because of that, because they respected our intelligence while playing this game, it could just be a cutscene here. We didn't have to button mash. We didn't have to God of War or even Resident Evil games do this nowadays to hold on to Wheatley while we're being sucked out into space. We were fine to just let it happen because we felt rewarded in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just did a big boss fight, and you shot at the moon like a child, but it actually worked.
Shot at the moon like a champ.
Yeah. So it's just insane. If you haven't played the game, the portal opens up, and everyone's sucked out into space. The Space Corps couldn't be happier.
Please as punch.
Exactly. Wheatley gets ripped out into space and is now stranded out in the universe with the Space Corps.
And GLaDOS pulls us back in. She seems to have a few seconds of fleeting remembrance or of emotion for your two's journey together. But if there was anything left, she completely deletes Caroline.
Yeah.
You expect her to be all like, now that I know who I was, I'll be human. And she's just like, nope. Deleted.
Yeah, she's basically, like, she states verbatim, oh, I learned some valuable lessons about humanity thanks to tapping into this Caroline portion of my mind. And you know what? Delete. I don't want it. Exactly. And oh man, it's so great. It's such a damn good ending. It's just note after note after note of shit I wasn't expecting.
Yep. And then she finally boots you out because it's easier to just be rid of you than to try and kill you, apparently.
The best ending to a villain ever. This is so meta. It's like every recurring boss in every video game ever you think would be at this point by now. How many times has Ganondorf busted his ass out of whatever prism Zelda locked him in that time, only to return and be defeated by another incarnation of Link and Zelda working together in tandem? Like, you would think he'd just finally be like, you know what? I'm going to bust out of the prison, and I'm opening a cafe. I'm done. I don't want to do this.
Or maybe I just won't kidnap Zelda for once.
Yeah.
You know, I'll do evil stuff with these guys over here.
I'll go to the town with the pig people. They don't seem to be able to defend themselves very much. We're good.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly. And I guess that makes GLaDOS the smartest villain ever.
Yeah. She kicks you out of Aperture because killing you doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's too hard, ultimately. And now we have found these testing infinite robots that she can use to satisfy her lust for testing. It was referenced by Cave Johnson earlier that, they were phasing out human tests and they were working on something in the background. But this leads into the side campaign that is the co-op mode.
Mm-hmm.
That's just brilliant. Like, I gotta say, like, all this, and it leads up to the reference for co-op. Like, how many other games can you think of that are, like, work that well for a co-op type thing, especially when they're single player mainly? I mean, Gears of War maybe.
Gears of War is good. Back in the day,
Army of Two, but that's not really a good game.
no, it's not. What's the Tom Clancy game?
Rainbow Six?
Not Rainbow Six.
Splinter Cell.
Splinter Cell, yeah, actually, back in the day, had incredibly ambitious co-op.
Okay, so there's two, but that's about all I can really think of. And really, even they had a story for the player community made maps. I don't know if you ever saw the video. They got it on Steam of just like, how they are going about getting all these different maps that are, aka the community is making. They say they're pulling them from the multiverse. They're basically stealing them from Aperture Science from other dimensions. And
It's wonderful.
Bringing them back.
It's wonderful. And this game and this universe is so rich but at the same time so incredibly open and absurd that this works.
Yeah. It's like you didn't have to think of a story for how people make maps and bring them into the game, but they did, and it works, and it's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but at this point, I definitely put on my critiquing glasses, and I'm like, okay, time for the game to end. You can't beat Cake for me. I mean, it was ruined on the internet, but The Cake is a Lie was one of the best video game endings ever.
I disagree. I think this ending's better.
Yeah?
I think the commentary of a video game boss being so utterly sick of failing at murdering you that they eject you from the world of the video game
She even gives you
is
a companion cube.
amazing. Exactly. The only thing, like, what'd you want her to give you a cake? That would have ruined the ending of the first one because the cake is a friggin' lie.
I was just happy to see the Animal King in the background doing the bo in the song.
Oh yeah. For a minute there, I actually thought maybe the turrets had taken over the surface world, and that's what you were coming up to. And they're all singing for your arrival into their glorious new society.
I was a little sad we didn't get to meet the fat ones along the way. Because I'm sure they would have sounded hilarious. I mean, the broken ones were hilarious. The normal-ass ones, creepy, but fun.
Yep.
Are you still there? It's good. It's good stuff. What's your opinion on the ending, Mike?
I love it. A little bit more bittersweet than the first one, which was just hilarious. I don't know. I almost would have liked it if she spit out a cake instead of a companion cube. Or maybe a companion cube with a cake on top. Just like, here you go. You earned it. Get the hell out.
Or it opens and we find out that inside all companion cubes is a cake.
Yeah, there you go.
Which would mean the cake would be destroyed by how much we whip those things around. But hey.
It's a really old and stale cake.
Exactly.
It's like window cake.
It was made back in the 1970s. It's just mold.
Oh. Petrified.
Yep. Good stuff.
And we're in the middle of a wheat field, which is neat. I mean, it's that whole sort of underground government facility thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, it's a wheat field. So you kind of get the idea that maybe there's still like some kind of society going on the surface.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
Wheat fields don't exactly take care of themselves.
Nope. Not very well, anyway. So, very interesting.
I guess she won't starve. She won't enjoy her meals for a while, but she won't starve.
Yeah. Well, we got some emails from in response to our part 1 episode, which actually 2 weeks ago. We apologize for skipping a week. We had a bunch of technical difficulties that were rather crippling, so we had to postpone. But our first email comes to us from Michael, and he says that the reason Chell is back in the Aperture labs after her escape is because she is dragged back in by the party escort robot that GLaDOS was telling you about after you didn't get incinerated. The March 3rd, 2010 patch modified the ending of Portal 1 so that Chell is dragged back into the facility by the unseen party escort bot.
Oh.
And he even linked us to the Portal wiki, where there is a crude drawing of Chell being pulled back in by a party escort bot, which just looks like a pink Wheatley with really badly drawn arms.
I still kind of like my trap hotel idea. Is it too late to patch the patch?
Yep. He said, also, I was a little surprised that you guys were unsure if the Half-Life universe and the Portal universe were the same one, considering that the mission given to you at the ending of Half-Life 2 Episode 2 was to retrieve Aperture's technology from their lost ship, the Borealis. Anyways, love the show still. Keep up the good work. From Michael. I wasn't unsure. I was simply posing it as a question or as a talking point. I'm very aware of that. There's pictures of a ship, the Borealis, with giant cargo boxes on it that say Aperture.
Right. Well, since they've already said that there's a bazillion multiverses from which to steal maps from, obviously more than a few of those multiverses probably have Black Mesa on them.
Yep. I want to go back to Black Mesa. I hope Half-Life 3 we end up back in some kind of crazy science facility.
When you got to the 80s, like I immediately noticed this is Half-Life texture.
Yep.
Did anybody else notice that? I'm in Black Mesa right now.
That's a really good point.
And also on a
Lot
similar
less
note,
fence.
I'm really sad that they didn't have a 90s. Even the 80s were just kind of a little bit more generic. Like I would have loved the 90s have some references to I don't know, Will Smith. Started making portals in my neighborhood or something. I don't know.
Some popping kicks. That'd be a sweet place.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Just a little bit of grunge flair. Picture of Cave Johnson in a flannel shirt.
Well, we actually see very little of the interaction with the previous employees that we had throughout the beginning of the game and in Portal 1 towards the end. We don't have any secret rooms with drawings of people who have gone sort of nuts or worshiping the companion cube, or really any sign that people worked in this part of the facility. But then again, I mean, this was the area where they were doing human testing on employees, so most likely people either died and got cleaned up by other employees, or they all left.
This is also after GLaDOS cleaned up a large portion of the facility.
That's true.
Because in the very beginning, you find that one room where there's this it's like a chapel to Chell. Yeah. But instead of stained glass windows, you just have wall paintings. Yeah, exactly. That's a very good question. That's a question I don't know. I no longer know, thanks to so many bad prequels of movies, if I want a lot of questions answered.
Touche.
I kind of like the mystery.
Well,
Did anybody else get the feeling that like you were below Disney World during a lot of the last chapter when you see everything swinging around and you're just seeing the gears below everything? You're just like, this is how Disney does everything.
Can't say I do, but I like that idea. I hope if I fall through the Pirates of the Caribbean, I become part of a science hell.
Imagineering labs at work.
There you go.
Yep.
We also got an email from Discorax that says, okay, guys, since you guys talked about Heart of the Swarm and more general game flow way, I wanted to propose a few thought-provoking questions to try and keep things going with Portal. First, I wanted to lay out the 7 characteristics of a good story. I think this could prove to be a good outline for these games and create some cool discussion points. 1 being character, 2 being theme, 3 being plot, 4 being point of view, 5 being setting, 6 being conflict, and finally 7, tone. So, and then he poses a bunch of questions that he wanted to use as conversation starters on the subject of Portal 2. He went on to say, on the subject of point of view, what is driving Chell to survive? What do you have to live for as a character? Is it just to explore?
I think we have brain damage, and we are simply living.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, obviously, she has no personality whatsoever. It's just you as the character, at which point you're just playing because you want to go see what's next. It kind of gives her, in a weird way, like, I guess, in how she interacts with the rest of the world, just kind of like this unbreakable resolve to escape.
Yeah, that's good. And I mean, GLaDOS references her parents when she's trying to mentally torture her. So I just think in my head that she does have memories of her past, where she came from, and she wants to get back to the real world.
Okay.
I like your idea that she's brain damaged. that would be a first in video games. Like I just don't have an original thought in my head. I just want to keep going.
But where else did she come from? Because I'm thinking she had to be a former employee or someone who survived neurotoxin. Both would put her at a really old age or in some sort of hypersleep where she may have lost a lot of her faculties.
All right. Well, think if you just flipped the situation here, and you're watching all of this from like GLaDOS's perspective. Chell is basically the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. No motivation other than just to confound you and break out of everything possible and try to eat you or kill you, basically. She's like the ultimate slasher, I guess you could say. Like, unstoppable. No motivation whatsoever except just to be right around the corner and unstoppable.
That's interesting. That's horrifying as a robot. Like, I've put some robots through some tragic times.
I guess that's why she finally got rid of her.
I mean, from GLaDOS's point of view, that's pretty much what she is.
Yeah, she did call her a monster multiple times.
Yeah. Well, it's like, slasher flicks. Why don't they ever just skip town?
I mean,
hop a plane to Aruba.
You could almost make the same argument for Gordon Freeman in Half-Life, in the Half-Life series. Then, we don't need to know what her motivations are. You just need to know that she's in a perilous situation and has a need to survive.
Right.
We come into Half-Life with slightly more backstory on Gordon. We're assuming that he's a scientist who's been working in this facility for a while. I mean, we know he's a scientist because you open up at a normal day at the office.
Yeah.
in
Supposedly
Half-Life
he knows more math than I do. But
1. Yeah. Okay.
you never actually use that. There's no like math tests in the game.
Quiz section.
But think
Yeah,
about
that-
it, like, if it was an actual like story about a super genius guy, he'd have to do super genius stuff. You don't have super geniuses beating people with crowbars most of the time.
Right. That's a little more relatable because it is a job. And heck, if we were all working our day jobs and shit hit the fan, we would most certainly want to get out alive because I don't want to die at work.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have very much in the way of good tools, though. I'd have to start beating people to death with an iMac, and those things are kind of cumbersome. be a problem. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's a very good question. Disco, thank you very much. He also said that he loves the sarcasm and mockery throughout the game. What aspects do we love the most that set the tone for the game?
Sarcasm and mockery.
Yeah, just the dark humor in general, I think, is my favorite.
When I said it last time, it's the need to test in the robots.
I think it just comes down to the voice acting, really. This game would be such an empty shell without the phenomenal voice acting that's going on in it.
It would still be very fun and well made gameplay wise, but holy crap, this is the best icing on any cake ever. Like for the voice acting.
Yep. This is where I start to. I've always kind of been in the belief, well, graphics don't really matter, and this game makes me rethink that. Not from a graphics standpoint, but the point that anything outside of mechanics doesn't matter, because this game is so near and dear to me because of the polish.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is polished to a high sheen.
Yeah.
But you're also working in that Half-Life world. I mean, other than the jump crouch thing you had to do in Half-Life 1 to get over some barricades, the movement system and how you interact with objects hasn't changed.
True.
That's actually really a good point you bring up. Thinking about Half-Life 1, the core mechanics stays the same.
Yeah. Core mechanics do stay the same, but still, speaking of polish and stuff, can you think of a single time? Can anyone? I submit this challenge to the world. Think of a single time when the game has glitched in Portal 2 and something completely broken happened, or you got stuck in a wall, or anything else that we just have to put up with in just about every other developer's games ever.
No.
And like that, they should have an award made of solid money for that. Just for that.
Solid money. Is there unsolid money? Like, could you...
It's oil.
Because that could be pennies, and then it wouldn't really be worth a whole lot.
It's Texas tea. Black gold. Oil, that is.
All right. Okay. That's a good point. I paid money for SimCity. I want to kill somebody.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Disco also asked, what do you guys think about Valve's take on the human condition, their pursuit of knowledge within the context of Aperture Science and Black Mesa? Our pursuit of knowledge will lead us to destruction. How about a comparison to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein? At the heart of Frankenstein is a lesson about the search for knowledge and the perils that accompany that pursuit. Discuss!
Wow,
Exactly
nice
the same
job.
thing. Yeah. It really is the exact same story. I mean, not the exact same story, but the exact same underpinnings of science gone awry. And, well, like with Cave Johnson, like he didn't care anything to consequences, to human loss or anything like that. It was all about science, and science is its own justification.
Yeah. Progress for progress' sake.
Yeah.
That's...
And if you
It's
want
interesting.
the counter argument to that, go watch Terminator 2. When what's her name, Sarah Connor's talking to the guy she just shot. She's like, scientists like you made the atom bomb and blah blah blah. You don't think about what you do.
Yeah, that's... Oh, man, I just want to go watch Terminator 2 now. Thank you.
No problem.
It's really the only good one, but... yeah, that's interesting, because I would say the viewpoint is... I would think different between the two games. I think Portal's very pessimistic, and I think Half-Life is optimistic.
Yeah,
About
I can
what
see that.
what they're going to accomplish.
About the human condition. Yeah, in Half-Life, our search for knowledge is what inevitably brings upon our downfall. But the character that you are playing and the rebels that you're allying yourself in Half-Life 2 with, at least anyway, is, I think, a very optimistic look at humanity that we will always fight and we will strive for the greater good.
Well,
Whereas
and I think that would happen in Portal 2 if we had more people talking to us, like real people that we were adventuring with.
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's all about, I guess, context. And in this particular case, we're locked in a cell with evil frickin' AI.
There's a lot of comparisons that are made, and some people get really angry when science becomes magic in a tabletop game. And I mean, this happens in a lot of different things. I mean, in Fallout, you have ghouls, and they're not undead; they're radioactive zombies. But still, that is an undead made by a necromancer. The religion of science is really fascinating. There's going to be countless movies made about it forever.
Yep. And wonderful South Park episodes.
Well, weren't
Science.
zombies originally made by radiation? Like,
In the original Night of the Living Dead, I believe so. I'm pretty sure it's left open.
Yeah, but it's like
I guess if you go way
sunspots.
back, they were made by magic, and then it was radiation, and then it was a virus, and now we're getting back to just God hates you, I guess, with Walking Dead.
Well, Walking Dead it is medically explained.
Did they? I thought they said they would never explain it.
Well, they said it is a medical, like, fungus or something that grows in your head. But
It's basically something that was airborne that all humans have now contracted. That once they die, they come back.
yes, that's the mystical part.
That just God hates you. God hates you.
Pretty much. Well, it's left open, but
Something has entered this world which will keep your head alive, trying to eat other people for all eternity, unless you put a hole in that head. God hates you.
well, you could say that then
no
about every zombie plot ever. Then I'm saying it's not chalked up to magic in Walking Dead.
28 days later, they all die eventually. There's nothing to keep a head alive. But
I don't know. So
Portal 2, ladies and gentlemen, Portal 2.
Okay, yes, back to this. God damn you. But that's a good point. And it's almost like you think Portal would become more optimistic if we went further, if we went beyond Aperture. Which leads me to my closing question for us. Portal 3? What do you could we go beyond the events of Portal 2? And if we do, what do you think that game would entail?
I'd like to think aliens find Wheatley and they try to destroy us for it.
And that's why Half-Life happens?
Yeah, okay, there you go. That'll work.
Okay. Or do you think we're going to get Half-Life 3 because Episode 3 is never happening, and it's going to be this melding of worlds?
Man, we'll eventually have to do a campaign roundtable on that whole game, but that is... I respect them for taking their time, because you are wading into finalizing a game that is built on unanswered questions, and it could easily be another lost fiasco.
I would have respected them if it came out 2 years ago. We are now in the ridiculous I'm going to kill someone stage of the waiting game.
Well, they're building another engine from scratch, which takes them forever.
Yep. Have they actually come out and said that? I've just assumed that's what they're doing because there's no other logical explanation.
I
They do
think
it
it's
every
been
time.
leaked that they are working on a new engine because they just didn't want to. I guess what they wanted to do with Half-Life 3 just weren't going to fit in what they got now.
Okay.
Well, and hey, look how long this engine has lasted them. It's time for an update, most certainly, but also it's an investment in the future.
Oh, well, even, WoW's running on an engine for Warcraft 3. I mean, there are some old, venerable, pulling way more than triple duty engines out there, but it's time to move on.
Yeah, I think Source is probably the most commendable one, though. It has shown itself to be so versatile, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Can't handle the biggest of textures, though.
No, but they're clean when they do happen.
Yeah.
I remember the first time ever playing Half-Life 2, and that was the first thing I noticed was just like, God, this texture work is amazing. Now you go back and okay, it's not the best in the world, but back in the day, man, that shit was crazy.
Well, they
Yeah.
never bought into that whole, like, let's bump map everything and make it look like it's made out of melted wax.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the Diablo method's really kind of the best, where everything is art, and it can't look bad and it can't age because it's art.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it's a very good point. You're looking at, God, just the use of matte paintings once we got into the 360 generation Gears of War and Halo and stuff is awesome.
Yep.
So that's a discussion for another day. Thank you guys for your emails.
But I must give my 2 cents on the sequel possible. We might have a deranged Cave Johnson robot, and that would make me so happy.
Yes, that would make me very happy too. I would love to have Simmons back.
You mean like what, like Krang from Ninja Turtles?
That would make me happy too.
Like a big fat naked man with red underwear and it's got a brain in its belly.
It would have to be its own isolated thing because, one, you don't have Carolyn anymore. She's been completely deleted. GLaDOS is perfectly happy with her multiplayer robots. It'd have to be some sort of isolated facility, and it'd be wackadoo, but
Yeah.
it'd be fun. I don't know what more you could do, because if you've played through the multiplayer, the co-op, those puzzles, you understand why each of you is only given half of the portal gun, because those are mind-blowing.
Yeah.
There's
a reason why all I did was mess with Aaron when we played. It was much more fun than trying to beat our heads against those puzzles. They're hard.
I really need to do that. So, and I don't think I have a good answer. I hope that the worlds meld in another installment of Half-Life is what I'm hoping for.
I'm hoping so too.
That would be the icing on my video game cake.
Yep. I'll join you in that vigil.
Well, and as of right now, when you shoot a portal at a portal, you can't put a portal through a portal. Granted, that'd be madness. But the way it kind of and sends a little sparks off when you hit it, clearly that wasn't weaponized ready. But in Half-Life 3, how sexy would that be to shoot a portal on a wall and then shoot your gun through that portal?
But if you're standing in front of the portal, you could make a portal in your butt.
You could shoot yourself in the butt, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a very good point.
Yes, yeah, and you could portal your own butt.
Oh man, that's just gonna be just put a portal above someone's head, put a portal to the wall behind you, and just lightly drop a grenade.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Even beyond the amount of time it would take to make an engine for the next one, setting up a map to properly take use of a portal gun, because it would have to be like Portal. You don't ever have free range to do whatever you want with the portal gun. You're only given so much as what they want.
Mm-hmm. So there's even a point in the part that we talked about today where you have to walk through one of those nullification portals because you turn on the white goo in another room. And if they let you, you could, in fact, without a load screen, go back into the previous area and just make a mess of things.
Yeah. So they can never give you full range, but they have to give you just enough to make you feel like you've pretty much got full range and can make, clever use of any kind of portal stuff. And I get the feeling that would take a hell of a long time to design right.
Yep.
And if they're doing it right, take your time. Take your time.
Just give us a good product at this point. So, very, very cool. Well, guys, that wraps up our coverage of Portal 2. Next week, we will be starting BioShock Infinite. Infinite. If I keep saying this infinitely, it's going to be a really boring show, and it'll never get posted. So we'll be going up until you bust a certain someone out of a certain prison.
Bust in prison, got it.
Yeah, that's where we'll be going up until.
A certain lady who has a bust. Giggity.
Most ladies over a certain age do. Okay, I'm not even going to get into this with you, Mike.
Yeah, okay.
There's so many. Oh, we're going to get so many emails. Anyways, that is that. We'll see you guys next week. If you'd like to help the show for free, leave us a review on iTunes. It's the best way to ensure our show reaches new listeners. And since it's a new show, every review counts. So head on over there if you enjoy it, if you're a podcast listener, and let us know what you think. The Campaign Roundtable is a production of amove.tv. You can head on over to amove.tv/campaign roundtable. That's our site. You can subscribe to us on iTunes or catch the VODs over on youtube.com/StarcastShow. Show. You can catch us live every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern right here at amove.tv/live. Our email is campaignroundtable@gmail.com. Send in any questions, comments, or MP3 or video attachments you may have, and we'll play them right here on the show. We'll respond to them in kind. We want to hear from you guys and hear your thoughts on games. So again, next week we are doing first of our 3-part series covering BioShock Infinite, and we're playing up until the tower sequence. So send in your emails on that. Follow us on Twitter at CRT Show. My personal Twitter is at Garrett Art. You can follow Kyle at Kyle Ferguson and Mr. Mike at MSD Artist. You can head on over to nomoonart.com for my design work. If you need stream graphics for whatever, check it out. I'm always available for freelance. And big thanks to our sponsors, doghousesystems.com. Our code is CRT for the Campaign Roundtable, and that'll get you double memory on your next Doghouse Systems gaming rig. And I highly recommend picking one up, because every single game that we talk about on here, unless it's a console-only game, those evil, evil things, I'm playing it on a Doghouse, and it's playing very well. So we thank them for their support. And gentlemen, I'll see you two next week to talk about BioShock.
Yes, you will.
Thanks for tuning in, live crowd.